Thank you for inviting me to the session. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Shreyams Kumar. Great pleasure for me to be here. This is a slightly different audience and a great audience. And I hope the topic will be of interest and value to you, the future of Kerala, the political and the social imperatives. To frame the context, I'll explain to you the line of talk that I will have today for the next 30 minutes or so. We'll talk a little bit about the world that we live today. All of you know, we all know, but I'll give a different kind of an emphasis to it. Then we talk about the major changes that are taking place and that are accelerated and brought about by COVID. We'll talk about the changing business and the social context. Then we'll look at the strength of the country, where the country is going. Then we will look at where Kerala is in the overall context. And then I will probably suggest what I think and what we should think should be the future of Kerala, how we should be able to take full advantage of the future of Kerala. So to give you some sort of a perspective, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing that I would like to say is, all of us, though we know, may not internalize the fact that we live in a digital economy. The sector that I represent, travel, we provide technology to travel sector. And that sector almost dates back to the beginning of humanity, and that sector is only 10% of the global GDP. Whereas digital economy, which did not exist until 2007, is 20% of the world's GDP today. The iPhone or the smartphone that you use did not exist until 2007. From 2007 to 15 years, it has become 20% or $20 trillion of the world's economy. And I'll give you some sort of a perspective. All of you know, but I'll give you some sort of a perspective. One, the digital economy is driven by our ability to collect, process, and use massive amount of digital data. It evolves, as you can imagine, from 2007 till today. It's grown so fast. So it evolves at very, very fast speed. For example, in 25 years back, the internet traffic was just about 1 megabytes per second. And today, even without 5G, we are probably about 250 terabytes per second. And also it creates, in very rapid time, massive amount of wealth. And unfortunately, or fortunately, or the case it is concentrated in the hands of very few countries, very few companies, and even worse, very few individuals in the world. And in fact, the digital economy has created a very powerful data value chain with firms, companies, specializing in collecting, processing, and analyzing data to create digital intelligence which we can use, which we can commercially use. And the digital economy has a very distinct nature. All of us are aware, but we may not really know. There's something called platforms or platformization. For example, Amazon is a platform. Uber is a platform. Airbnb is a platform. Yeah, platformization, what a platform does is, a platform connects millions of producers on the one side with billions of consumers. And it facilitates, bilateral and multilateral exchanges. There are also other platforms that you are aware. For example, Android is a platform, iOS is a platform, Linux is a platform. These platforms will actually get talent from around the world, get them to collaborate, and then create value. So that's one thing. And it's also important for you to know 7 of the 8 largest companies in the world by market capitalization, all of them, that 7 of them use a platform-based business model. This is very important. Ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you another thing. When we talk about economy, we used to talk about the north-south divide. Developed countries in the northern hemisphere and developing or undeveloped or underdeveloped countries in the southern hemisphere. Western Europe, America, Japan. Now, but when it comes to digital economy, which is going to become the most dominant and the prominent economy, it is going to be, at the moment at least, it is between 2 countries. It is the United States on the one side and China on the other side. 90% of the entire digital economy is in these countries. If you have heard about IoT, 50% of all the IoT spending. If you have heard about blockchain, 75% of all of the blockchain patents. If you have heard about cloud computing, 75% of the public cloud demand and 90% of the entire digital economy is with these 2 countries. No wonder, ladies and gentlemen, no wonder all of the friction in the name of trade that we get to hear between these 2 countries is actually a reflection of their quest for dominance in these frontier technologies, which are going to really dictate the world very soon. So this is what the digital world that we are actually talking about. And if I really talk about, again, how the world is moving and where we are in that context, COVID-19, last 3 years, has reset the world. Lot of trends got accelerated. One thing that is really happening in the world today, and why am I talking about this, is because this is the context in which our country and our state is, the state of Kerala. Now, COVID-19 has accelerated technology adoption. Every company, whether it is a publicizing company, a publishing company, or whether it is a group of journalists, whether it is a travel distributor or a hospitality company, aviation company, pharmaceutical company, all of them are now trying to become technology companies. That does not mean they are trying to become IT companies. What it means is that they have realized, internalized, that for their success, for their survival, technology is inevitable. For example, if you take Madhubhumi or any of the publications like that, the future of these institutions depend on how much of technology they will be able to deploy to reach to their consumers. Now, that is on the technology adoption. The second one is the future of jobs is changing. Ladies and gentlemen, last year itself, 100 million, that is 10 crores of jobs got displaced. The future of jobs. What job that we have versus what talent that we have. The jobs that we have in hand versus the talent. And after COVID, even though some of the sectors are trying to come back, is not able to come back 100%. For example, my sector, travel, aviation sector is not 100% back. You may be thinking that flights are full and fares are high, so everything should be good. Everything is good, but the capacity is not back. The price is high because the capacity is not back. They are not able to deploy all of it. Why? The reason is simple. In India, it may not be the case, but in most of the other countries, it's different. Like if you take the case of UK, Europe, or US, most of the people who work at the airport, most of the people who attend your calls at the call center for reservation services, they are not coming back to work. You know why? Because they don't want to work in shifts. They don't want to actually, dress up and go to the airport in odd hours. They can work sitting at home for online deliveries, and there are so many other opportunities. because they are computer literate in the sense they are comfortable to use computers, and those people have moved out, and as a result of which we are unable to get the airports to work in full. So capacity is not coming back. What I'm trying to say is future of jobs is changing. People think that I can be trained like the old times. Like for instance, in about 10 years' time, there will hardly be any bank jobs in the traditional sense. We will not find any high street branches because we don't need it. We don't have to go there. And there will be phenomenal amount of changes. I was actually talking to somebody in Bombay yesterday that one of the disruption that's actually coming using technology in the healthcare sector is, you've heard about 5G, which is the 5th generation wireless technology, which enables, the characteristics is much faster. It will be able to transmit data much faster, latency will be less. A cardiac professor or a neurosurgeon in Harvard Medical School will be able to perform a surgery here in Srijitra or the General Hospital here, sitting from there and watching the details of the patient far more clearer than the naked eye that we have. And he will have a remote controlled device which will perform the operation, and very realistically with the support of the surgeons nearby. But the surgery is conducted by that person who is sitting there. Such disruptions are happening, and it is happening. And this is the world that we live, and we should be cognizant of this. So the future of jobs are shifting. Our next generation cannot think like taking an undergraduate degree and a postgraduate degree, then I'll get a job in the traditional sense. No. Even education is becoming personalized, meaning that it is not going to be in future degrees and diplomas as what you think. It's not going to be in future classroom lectures as we are used to. It is going to be micro credentials. I want to do journalism, and I don't want to spend 3 years BCom, whatever, liberal arts. I want to have 3 months intense course on journalism, and there will be a lot of universities that will provide us with the kind of effectiveness, even perhaps much better than the classrooms, and that's all what I need to have. And based on that skill which they will be able to assess, I will get a job. The future of jobs are shifting. Now, the third piece, our operating models are changing. You know what operating model means? Previously, take our secretariat, take the case of a bank, take the case of even an IT company. Every day morning, people will dress up and finish everything at 10 o'clock or 9:30, 8:30, depending on what time you start. You go to the office. And then 5 o'clock, you return. Every day morning, you go one direction, evening we go in one direction. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to happen. The forecast, the realistic forecast for the world is that 20 to 25% of all the jobs across all occupations, 800 occupations, 2,000 work activities assessed, will have about 25% of the people working from remote. So all of the companies have to be preparing themselves to be able to manage their work and the work outcomes from that model. So the future of our operating models are changing. That's another very, very important factor. So I talked about 3 things which COVID has brought about. One, acceleration of technologies. For instance, when COVID came, all of a sudden everybody started working from home. Everything was at home. Work from home, study from home, medical care at home, food delivered at home, entertainment at home, everything was at home. I'm not saying that is the best of life that we should be aspiring for, but that was made possible, and that has actually accelerated the technology adoption. And the second, I talked about the shifting of jobs, or the future of jobs are changing. The third, I said, the way in which we organize ourselves, conduct ourselves to produce whatever the institution is expected to produce is going to be different. That method will be different. So in a nutshell, what I've summarized is, we are in a different business context. We are in a completely different social context. Actually, we talk about lifestyle. Lifestyle is around what the priority of activities that we actually do. when we are working from home or when we are hybrid model, our lifestyle itself changes. So the business context and the social context has changed enormously. To summarize, the way we produce, whatever that we are actually producing, it is much more automated with machines, with 3D printing, artificial intelligence, highly automated. The way we distribute, as I said, we are going to distribute much more personalized, direct to the consumer. And the way in which we consume today, if you look at, I will have my lunch when I want, where I want. I make the order and it gets delivered there. And the way in which we transact, it's unimaginable. You are paying instantly. I can make payment in the United States instantly from here. So very direct and very personalized and also real-time cashless. The way we operate, again, highly automated. So actually, that is the way we are actually living. Now, this is the world that we are in. And in this world, with digitally disrupted world, the leaders have to reset their intuitions and the decision makers. And in this context, then we will look at how India and our state is. It's extremely important that we reset our intuitions. It might appear to at least some of the aspiring guys or the existing people who are working a little bit unsettling, but I must reassure you, it's unsettling, but there are enormous amount of opportunities as well. Yeah. Now with that, let's actually look at, so I talked about the world we live in a digital context. Now let's look at where our country is. The country of India. I don't know whether I have said this in many occasions when I was speaking in public. One thing that I would like to quote is the quote from the CEO of a consulting company called McKinsey. I'm sure some of you would have heard about McKinsey. Is one of the most leading consulting companies in the world, perhaps the leading. And its CEO spoke about India in an interview which is published just a few months back. And what he said is this: it is not the decade for India, it is India's century. This is what he said. This is India's century. And this is a man who heads the most reputed consulting company in the world. And why did he say that? He cannot just say like you and me saying. That will have massive implication on his business itself. And he said this because of three reasons. It is going to be India's century because of three distinct reasons. Number one, in 20 years or 25 years from now, that is by 2047, or India at 100, India will become the talent factory for the world. That's what he said. And he also said that we will become, Indian economy will be the third largest economy. That's the number one. Number two, which all of you and we are aware of it, number two is this. See, because of the geopolitical issues, I'm not talking about the Ukraine-Russia crisis, but also the ongoing trade frictions which I talked about between the bigger superpowers in the world, the supply chain is getting remapped. What it means is that a lot of manufacturing that is actually taking place in some of the countries like China is, the world is really feeling that it's not safe, and the supply chain is remapping, and India can be a benefactor. I'm not saying that all of that is going to come to India, but India can be a benefactor. So that's the second one. And the third one, the reason why he thinks India is going to be our century, is because for the size, complexity, and relatively low economic output or per capita income of our country, we are highly digitized. And thanks to the work done by a lot of governments in the past and now, we are highly digitized. And we should be able to leapfrog, that should help us leapfrog in our developmental pursuits, which is a great thing. So the high digitization of India, the talent pool of the country, and also what's really happening around the world where India has an absolute opportunity is the reason why he said that. But I will add one more to it, Bob Sternfeld's comment. And this was commended again by Jeff Bezos. He said he is going to bet on the country of India. And I will say why India, it is going to be our century for one more reason. That is because India's future is in its thriving, enterprising people. They ever hopeful, even in the thick of everything. India is an absolutely, we have that enterprising mindset. That's the reason why we should be absolutely on the top. And this was mentioned again, and I'm sure you would have noticed it a couple of weeks back in the World Economic Forum, just 2 weeks back. EY released their report on India, and it's called India at 100. What would be the future? They said by 2047, again in 25 years, that is 100th year of independence, we will be $26 trillion in economy, which is great, which is 6-fold growth more than, and also a per capita income of $15,000. Ladies and gentlemen, the young, you are going to live a much better, prosperous life than people like us did in our childhood. So that's great news. Now, let us look at, I would also like to give, because I'm coming from the IT sector, let me give you some sort of a perspective where we are on the IT sector. That's also a very inspiring story. So the IT industry last year, FY22, was about $227 billion, which amounts to 50% of the country's entire exports. And we are also 8% of the country's GDP. And India accounts for 59% of the global sourcing. When it comes to IT talent sourcing, the world depends solely on India, thanks to the bright ladies and boys and girls of our country, the talent of this country. Yeah, so that's fantastic. We employ 5 million people in the country in the IT sector, and these have a multiplier effect of about 6. Now, this is about the promise of our country, the promise of the IT industry, and which grew, by the way, last year 15%, which is great. Previously, it used to grow at about 7.5%. Now, coming to our state, we are all very proud of our state, isn't it? We are a proud Malayali, we are a proud Indian, a proud Keralite, and a proud Indian. And our state has achieved, as we all know, a lot of advancements at the initial decades, isn't it? When it comes to the HDI, we are number 1 in the country, 0.798, whereas the national average is 6.624. I think 2019 figures I'm talking about. We are adjudged as the best governed state. We are surprised, but that's true on a relative basis. We are also adjudged as the number 1 when it comes to sustainable development. In the SDX, Sustainable Development Index, we are number 1. And we are, in spite of all of our frustrations, we have to accept that we are the least corrupt state. That's true. That's what they say. And we are also digitally ready state. The tele-density here, the handhelds, the smartphones that we use, all of that is an indication that we are a digitally ready, digitized state, yeah? That's great, fantastic to be part of it. And I keep talking about it and then brag about it when I'm speaking to people from other states. But I would like to also present to you another vision of the state of Kerala. And that is the reason why, that's how I would conclude as what are the changes that should take place in the state for us to realize the potential that we have. Ladies and gentlemen, any place, if you really want to look at what is the future holds for a particular place, you have to look at 3 distinct things. In economics, we say the flow of capital, the flow of people or flow of talent, and the third one, the flow of goods and services. So the flow of people or migration or flow of talent. What it means is if you really look at all of the developed places, if you look at, they have a tendency, they will attract and retain talent. The why United States progressed is because they were able to attract talent thanks to a great universities there, and they were able to retain talent because they were able to create opportunity. So when you get the best of talent to your place, we will create meaningful jobs and valuable jobs. There's a difference between meaningful job and job. Yeah, a meaningful job will produce outcome which will have beneficiaries. The other one is an employment for them to give a livelihood. Yeah, there's a difference between the two. One, it's like a horse cart. In one, the horse is in front of the cart. The other one, the cart is in front of the horse. There is a difference between the two. So that is what they do. And take the case of state of Kerala. This is an absolute fact. We have all of our bright minds, young boys and girls. They leave the state, and we have migrant laborers coming here. We have 32 lakhs or 3.2 million migrant laborers and 3.4 million of our bright boys and girls leaving out. Ladies and gentlemen, this state has about 46 lakhs of people in the school, or 4.6 million, and of which we have about 5.2 million, lakhs people write the SSLC and CBSE together, and about 3.3 lakhs of people go to pursue post-graduation and graduate studies. 10% of that was gone last year to study outside, and they will not come back, and their parents do not want them to come back. And all of our bright youngsters, and there was a survey conducted, I don't know whether you have actually looked at. That survey says, it was conducted to school boys and girls, and it said they don't have any aspiration to work in our state. None of the city is inspiring them to be there. And why they don't do that? I'll tell you why that happens. They do not see a lot of positive in our state. All of those debates in the channel in the evening, which poison is spewed between the two parties, and all the debates on party lines, all of that is actually putting off our youngsters, and they do not see future, and they leave, and that is not a great situation. So the flow of talent. So the best of countries will attract and retain talent and outsource the low end task to other countries like China or India. Whereas in our case, the best of talent leave the state, and we have migrant laborer filling in. And this is going to impact the economy and also the social balance. The number two, the flow of capital or investment. Ladies and gentlemen, to put all of us to meaningful work, we must have capital to invest. I'll present to you the actual fact. 2.5 years from October 2019 till March 22, 2.5 years, India received $169 billion of investment into this country, and Kerala's share is 0.42%. What does it mean? It means that the investors still do not consider Kerala as an investor-friendly place, and this is going to impact meaningful job creation going forward. I was talking about, so I mentioned two, the flow of talent and the flow of capital. The third one, even more worrying for us. With all the GST filing, it is now absolutely easy for us to find out how much is the interstate trade. In the financial year FY22, we had 1,55,000 crores worth of goods and services which the state of Kerala imported or bought from other states. 1,55,000 crores. In the same period, our exports to other states, interstate, was 55,000 crores, or we have a trade deficit with other states of 1 lakh crores. A trade deficit. That means we are consuming without producing. And how does it get then balanced? Because we have exported our boys and girls to other countries, more so Gulf countries. So we have remittances, but ladies and gentlemen, again, you should remember this, the remittances have consistently come down. Last year, we became number 2, number 1 became Maharashtra. Last year, the whole country received 8.67 trillion. A trillion is about 8,000 crores. 8.7 trillion, and our share was 10% of it, about 72,000 crores. That's what we received. And so when it comes to the trade deficit, 3 things. If it indicates the prospects of a place, the economic prospects has linkages to social prospects. Yeah? Because our behavior itself is influenced by the economic background. So if I look at the flow of talent, flow of capital, and flow of goods and services, the prognosis for Kerala doesn't look that great. This is in spite of all of the advancements that we achieved in the formative years of this country. And ladies and gentlemen, what is the reason why we are in this plight? What is the reason? What is the realistic reason? We can talk about we are taking more loan. These are all the effects of the problem, not the cause of the problem. I can say three distinct reasons. Or three, how do we stop this slide? We have to stop this slide. Kerala is we are an amazing lot of people. And we have the opportunity and we should not lose that opportunity. And how do we get there? I'll tell you three distinct areas of change. One, a political model change. We follow a political model. So please don't misunderstand me. I'm not talking, our politicians are not bad, our parties are not bad. We do have a proven political model, but the model has problem. Model is in sync with the realities, the economic realities of the world today. I'll tell you why. Number one, what's our political model? The political model is that we do have political parties, and the number one priority of the political party, not only in India, everywhere, is to come to power or stay in power. Because unless you have the wall, you cannot draw the picture. So there's nothing wrong with that. But the method used to come to power is the one which is killing us. And what is that method? And it's a proven method. LDF and UDF consistently will come back to power. So it's proven, but it's counterproductive for the state. We follow a process of opposing everything, disrupting, completely on party line. How can a topic be completely on party line without the merit of the topic? And all of these disruptions, we had in 2017, you won't believe, 119 hartals. 119 hartals in 2017. This is research. And in 2018, we had 112. This includes statewide hartals and local hartals. And all of this disruption is told to us citizens that it is for our benefit, but they are disrupting, these political parties are disrupting common man. And with all these disruptions, what is it that the parties are trying to tell? They say that our party is relevant, our party is upholding your interest, and it only to communicate to us so that we will owe them again all of this disruption. There is absolutely no other purpose that is served. The number one purpose served is this: to communicate to us that we are relevant and we should. That means this disruptive approach, and for this disruption to sustain, they need unions, they need employees, and that's why they support more government and more public sector, because they become then the people for them to support. But let's assume for one moment they have to have a means to communicate. But today there's so much technology available, you don't need to follow this method. They still can tell us we are relevant and we will have one or two or three parties and we will be voting them, electing them. But the approach, the method that they are using is silent. You know, this disruptive approach has another problem, and we should know this. Ladies and gentlemen, who is an investor? An investor is somebody who has investable income. When he is coming, when this vicious environment is actually not showing respect to him, he will run away. That's the reason why $169 billion, Kerala's share is 0.42%. We can say many things, and I keep on going and speaking. And day before, 3 days back, I was in Dubai and talking to potential investors to Kerala to attract them to the state. But we can say all of this, but this remains a fact that needs to change. That political model has to change. Political leaders should understand, parties should understand. I'm not saying that our parties are bad or our politicians are bad. Don't misunderstand me. But it is a fact that is existing. Number two, so one is political model change. Number two is a service model change. I mentioned, the future of this country is bright because of the enterprising mindset of our youngsters. And we know through case studies that unleashing that potential is impossible in government. When you are working in government or public sector, you will never be able to unleash the potential of our people. You take the case of KSIDC, you take the case of KSCB, Kerala Road Transport Corporation, and you take the 116 public sector undertaking. All of them are making laws. And why are they making laws? They will make profit only if they are a monopoly or they are sole suppliers to the government. Is there a need? So we have to realize that we have to unleash the potential of the Keralites. And if we have to really live up to the aspiration of our boys and girls and the future generation, we really have to have a different model. And every country in the world has gone through this, and US more so. There is a change there. Everything used to be government owned and government operated. They used to call it as go-go, government owned, government operated. And they changed very quickly, very quickly, and several decades back, government owned, contractor operated, or government ownership by government, operated by private. Because you and me will work differently when we have accountability and responsibility. It is the same thing. Take the case of TCS providing passport management service. Government is saying what are the regulations. Government owns the regulations, the laws, everything, but implemented by private. They are motivated to serve you. That model, so government owned, private, or government PPP, whatever. We have to bring in more. The point is this: we really want to actually unleash the potential of our boys and girls, and if that is possible, we have to really look at what is the structure that will help us unleash that. Number 3, the role change of the government. The role of the government should be changed. Government should only do things that government can do. Government doesn't have to, make soap, and which not even the prisoners will use. Yeah, there are many companies which can produce soap, isn't it? Government doesn't have to distribute power. They only should say power cannot be sold more than this price. They are regulated. It can be done by private or public-private participation, whatever. Government should do. There are certain things only governments can do. Anything related to infrastructure, basic health, basic education, law and order, or any business facilitation, government can do. They own it, they legislate, they create, but done by private. And why do we thrive? In Kerala, all of us, including myself, all of us are craving for government job. And why? Because we believe if it is government job, there is job security. And a boy or a girl who is not part of the system, they come in, they feel it's natural because we want to have a secure future. But the moment you are inside, you are different. You will become different. Not because you and me are bad, it's because that environment is like that. So we are not talking against anybody, any parties. We are talking that we should change the method that we use for us to be governed and to drive our prosperity future. So I talked about 3 things. The political model change, the service model change. So why not? Think about it this. Government makes all the regulations for building management rules. And they own it, they instinct. But why can we think of, I'm just taking the name of TCS as an example. TCS can actually deliver the sanctions, the approvals. They will exactly go by what it is. I was once talking to one of my board members who is the chairman of one of the biggest insurance company in the world, Alico, AIG. And I told him, India's problem is that we are bureaucracy, we are not that efficient as what we should be. And he was shocked. How can it be? He said, for a company like AIG, which is one of the largest insurance groups in the world, all of the complex claims are processed by Indian companies in India. And he took the name of Wipro or TCS. And why is it that you have so much of problem? Because we don't use them. Then that will become corporate. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem with corporates. What is corporate? Infosys is a corporation. TCS is a corporation. A small boy who is starting a startup today, when he is becoming, take the case of Byju's. when he is growing up, and he will have a framework of governance, and all of that together is the governance. So what has corporate done to us? We don't have to see. This is very valid for the theme, the shadows of history. Let's learn from history. Let that not be a chain in our legs. Isn't it? Shadows of history and lights of future. It's resonating very well because it is the shadows of history that's actually chaining us. So I talked about three things: model change and the government role change. And all of us have a role to play there. And I will conclude by making this quote. This is an Einstein quote. What he said is, the world that we have created, the world around us, is a product of our thinking. If you want to change the world, we have to change our thinking. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of Kerala can be made by us, and we will absolutely be a contributor or an architect towards that if we change our thinking. And that's all what I wanted to say today. Once again, thank you for inviting me. I hope it was useful, and I wish Madhubhumi and the LitFest all the very best, and hopefully the remaining sessions will be as enjoyable as the ones that you had before. Thank you very much.